Okay, so this is going to be my first attempt at a podcast. I'm doing it all operated by myself, and quality might be down, but hopefully production will be up and you guys enjoy this. This is going to be the In the Moment pod, kind of a spin-off of where I was doing the ride vlogs in the past and kind of documenting my career and everything going on through video. And with craziness of life, I wanted to be able to stay in touch with friends and fans across so many different platforms, and I've really liked using YouTube. So I'm trying something different here with a podcast. This is the In the Moment pod, kind of a spin-off of the ride. So this podcast to me is going to be a way that I can reconnect, whether it's rebasing with you guys and what's going on in my career in NASCAR week to week, post-race, tell stories on the racing side, talk about what's going on in my family as we are an ever-growing little family of four now, with our little man Captain, who is 3 months old, coming up on 4 months old, our little girl Oakley, who is 3 years old, and my beautiful wife, who we just don't talk about age. So we are in such a crazy part of our life, and I think it's going to be a fun thing to document over time. Also, I have so many hobbies outside of racing that I want people to know about, that if they want to connect on different levels of not just having to see me as a NASCAR driver. I'm so passionate about so many things, and currently one of the big ones that I've really dove into lately as a hobby is trading cards. I think the trading card market is super interesting. So much going on there as far as investment strategies that I'm trying to learn, and I'm just a massive sports fanatic in general. So it kind of ties together a couple fun things for me. And so anybody interested in that, please send in questions, ideas, thoughts that you have on hobbies that I enjoy. Also, I love being in the outdoors, and spending time with my family is probably one of my favorite hobbies. But as we go forward in this podcast, you'll learn more about me and what I'm into, and you'll learn too that I'm into different things all the time. So we'll figure that out. So going forward, I think for this first episode, I just want to kind of recap what's been going on with us since the end of last year, kind of the end of my time with Germain Racing, in the 13 car with Geico, which was a run of years that I'm so thankful for to have and to have experienced. I learned so much, grew so much as a person on and off the track during that time. But unfortunately, that, like all things, they have to come to an end at some point, and they did, sadly, at the end of last year. And so many relationships that were formed over that time. We've gone in different directions. It's already this year been cool to see some of the guys that I worked with for so long that are getting opportunities in other places, and seeing them succeed already has been really cool. So, at the end of last year, I guess just to explain it all, my intention was to remain with Germain Racing and Geico. There was a opportunity with a contract extension pending on sponsorship returning for a 5th year, and was very excited about that. But coming down to the end of the year, as looking back now, and everyone knows, Geico decided to terminate their sponsorship with Germain Racing, which in turn, led to the closing of the doors of a race team that's put a lot into the sport over many years, a lot of great people. So it was an unfortunate, really hard time. And I think for our sport, which is unique, is we have to plan ahead quite far financially and for race teams and sponsorships before the next year. So, saying that everything kind of happened in late August is a little bit late as far as knowing what's going on. And for myself to be with the team that I'm so thankful for now, that had a sponsorship that sponsored 95% of the races every year. You're used to working with one sponsor. You don't really have time to connect with other companies to really grow relationships outside. So once we found out that we're all kind of on our own, and and figuring out what you're going to do next. For me, unfortunately, as a driver, to get opportunities nowadays in NASCAR, you have to be able to bring some financial backing with you. I had zero at the moment. I knew this, found this news out about our race team shutting down. So the shift immediately turned to, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to approach this? And start getting connected with other teams. From that point on, a lot of phone calls, a lot of long days of, messaging and connecting people and trying to get things figured out. And honestly, it was probably one of the most challenging, but I guess growing times of my life. As far as just having to figure out how to work. I've never been put in a situation, honestly, to where in my career I didn't know what was next. I've always had an opportunity for the next year way ahead of time where there was never a thought about that. So I think I grew a lot in maturity through this time of figuring out and speaking with people and tell them what I think I could bring to the table. Hopefully relationships that I could help plug into a race team to help grow their program as well. But challenging enough, there was a lot of no's. There was more no's than I've ever heard in my life, which just added to, I guess, the maturing process of this off season for me. I was turned down by at least 3 race teams personally. I was doing a lot of the phone calling myself, actually all the phone calling myself. So I think it was 3 or actually 4 more teams that just over a 6 to 7 month period, even days after Christmas, where you hope to figure out what your next year plan are. I got a no then, and every time you hear a no, you kind of have to reschedule because you can't. In the way that I see things, you can't go all in and trying to sell yourself to an opportunity to try to get a chance in a car, and then be halfway doing it to another team. So each opportunity, I individually put myself fully into giving myself to that team, hoping that something would work out. So numerous times there was failure at the end of those long, many hours put into communicating and connecting dots times. So that was very frustrating. It was tough. It was hard for Haley and I. But we always believe that, God's got a good plan for us in our life, and that if He wants us in racing, the doors will open and things will happen. And if not, and this thought crossed a lot, we'll figure something out, and He'll provide something new to our life in some other way. And we had peace with that. But the thing that was hard was racing wasn't going away. It wasn't there as a opportunity yet, but it wasn't going away, and there other things weren't showing up to say, hey, this is what we're going to do now. So in the back of our mind, we knew that the racing chapter wasn't over yet. And so speeding forward, post Christmas, post New Year's, there was calls coming in about kind of the first call that changed things and started getting good momentum into this year was a call from 2311 Racing, inquiring if I would be interested in running the shootout because of opportunity that I was still in it, and that now has turned into a lot of great things. And so I was immediately said yes. An opportunity to be possibly the first driver for Michael Jordan's race team signed me up, and through that, there was a lot of hoops and hurdles that they had to jump to put me in their car, which I'm very grateful for, and probably the biggest one was approval from Toyota. This was something that with other teams, other manufacturers, wasn't very easy and held up a lot of the processes probably for me along the way. So, but when Toyota, approved me to run this race, it started slowly opening doors, and I think that's a moment that I hope to look back on for a long time. That was a critical moment as far as resurrecting opportunity and career in this sport, and I will forever be grateful for that approval from Toyota, and very thankful for them for taking a chance, so to speak, on me and giving me the opportunity despite my relationships and family and past with Chevrolet, and so I'm so grateful for that. And from that came more chances with Marty Gaunt and Gaunt Brothers. They were looking to race the Daytona 500, looking for someone who had good experience and could get the job done at the super speedways, and Toyota signed off on that, and those things moved very quickly. And the process of working with Marty and Gaunt Brothers, I think there was less hurdles because they weren't dealing with another drivers like 2311 was, and 2311 is so fresh, so things took a little bit longer to announce. But with Gaunt Brothers, we were able to move very quickly and get that announcement out quick. And from that point, I moved forward, and there was conversations that were had with Gibbs Racing, Joe Gibbs Racing, and doors had slowly started to open up, and we fast forward to about 2.5 weeks before going to Daytona, and we announced a 4-race package with Joe Gibbs Racing's Xfinity team, which is top of the top in the Xfinity series, and they're the top of the top in every series. And to be a part of a team like that, for them to open their doors to me, I will forever be grateful for this opportunity. And it just craziness as far as my life and career. And when we circle back to finding out the news last season that I wasn't driving anything, I didn't know I would be here. And that's something that I think Haley and I look back on, and with our faith in God, that we know He's got a plan, He's putting us in the right place. I'm just very grateful, even though throughout most of the off season I was crying out, like, what are you doing with me here, God, and why is it not easy right now? But He never promises it to be easy. And in perspective to life, these are great things, and there's so many things that I'm so thankful for. And first of all, to be able to drive a race car for a living, I am so grateful for that opportunity. So this is all in perspective to what just I'm going through in my job, and we all have different things that are challenging. It might not be NASCAR for some people, but it might be their local store that they may work for, or you're a lawyer or whatever. We all have things we're passionate about, and for things to work out this way, just knowing God's presence the whole time, that's the story of who He is. He doesn't promise everything to be perfect, but He does promise that He'll be there, and He's always with us. Even the hard times and the great times, He's always there, and He's always working things for our good. Whether in the moment we think we want something, He knows what we need, and I'm grateful for what He's done in my life, and even just talking about a 7 to 10 race schedule this year, which wouldn't have been my original plan. I now have so much more peace about it, because I know that He's in control, and He is making the way for my career, whether it's moves into a full schedule in the future or not. He's showed up in many ways that have been very, very great for me this off season and moving into this year. And then also in the off season, outside of racing, our family grew, and that was one of the coolest things ever to experience. It actually happened during the Texas race at the very end of the year. Haley went into labor while I was still at Texas Motor Speedway, and I don't know how many people know the story or not, but she called me before the race and said, "Hey, it's going to happen tonight, but don't worry about it, and you just go race." And that's the last thing you really want to hear before a race, to not worry about it, that your wife's going into labor and you're 2.5 hours away. And we had already had plans many weeks before, that if she were to go into labor in the middle of a race, you guys pull me out of the race right then, I got to get there. I'm not missing this. So we had so many plans and set, and we were supposed to race on Sunday, but ended up staying till Wednesday the following week because so much rain. We haven't done that in forever in our sport. It just happened to be that was the week that it happened. And so start the race, I hear nothing on the radio, so I'm thinking in the back of my mind, inside of 15 to go, 20 to go, oh, we're all good, I'm gonna make it home. If she was really going into labor like heavily, they would have told me. Well, as soon as I park the car, I'm thinking it's all good. I'll just take my time, get to the airport, and we'll get home on normal time. One of the guys runs up, and our car chief, Billy, says, "Hey, your wife's having the baby." And at the time, that's not the way I wanted to hear it. I was quite upset. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I just took off running. I thought I had missed it. Took off running with my suit, and Earl, who drives our motorhome, had the rental car running, and he was just a hero. We had so many great people that helped us during this time that I'm so grateful for, and Earl Williams and Samantha Jones, who does all my PR. They had already had it lined up, and they had my car running, so I'm in my fire suit, and he had chased down Jimmy Johnson earlier and asked Jimmy if I could ride with him because my wife was in labor on his plane back home. So I jumped in my suit, got to the airport, hopped in Jimmy's plane, and about knocked myself out going through the door because I was so excited to try to get home. I got a big bump on my forehead, thought I had a concussion just from that. But we made it home from the end of the race in about 2 hours, and drove pretty hastily, I would say, to the hospital, and was able to be there a couple hours early to see the birth of my son and see my amazing, strong wife have our son. And I'm sure she'll talk about this another time. But she was able to have it naturally with no painkillers or anything. And to see her strength in that time was just such a special moment, such a major God moment in our lives, something that we had prayed about that came to fruition that night. And our little boy, Captain Reed Dillon, was brought into the world. And that was just one crazy, crazy day. So the rest of the off season has been, no sleep, waking up every 2 hours, and changing diapers and feeding little man. And then when the nights that he would sleep 4 or 5 hours, Oakley would decide to wake up. So that's the good stuff. It's the good stuff of life. It can be challenging, but these are the moments that you remember forever, even when they're hard in the middle of it. And I'm thankful for that. So that's a recap of kind of what's been going on for the last few months this off season, and I'm so looking forward to the future. And like I said at the beginning, this podcast is going to be raw. It's going to be me recording, editing, posting it, and everything. So it's going to be genuinely for me. There's going to be days where Captain's crying or something in the background, or Oakley's going to need me, or the dog's going to be barking, and doors are going to be chiming, and phones are going to be ringing. But you got me, you got my words, and just want to try to connect with everybody through this time. And it's going to be a fun year. The opportunity to race for Toyota and TRD is a massive blessing for me, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity, along with Joe Gibbs on the Xfinity side. To work with Coach Joe is just a mind-blowing thought for me. He is a special person with his race team, but even bigger off the racetrack with his faith and the way that he's impacting lives across the country and here in North Carolina. And then Gaunt Brothers Racing, man, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to grow as a team and develop, and we're going to shock a lot of people when I get in that 96 car. So can't wait for you guys to come along on the ride with me on this. And this is going to be the end of episode 1 of In the Moment, and then I'm gonna probably post the second one pretty quick, recapping Daytona, because I'm sitting here on a Thursday before we go to the Daytona road course race, and I want to get caught up so that we have everything on the same week when I'm talking about it. So hope you guys enjoy it. If you have comments, questions, things you'd like me to bring up, ideas, you just comment on either my YouTube channel here or on Instagram. Those are my main two social media feeds that I'm actually active on mainly. So hope you guys enjoyed this first podcast, and be looking for episode 2 coming out soon.